Hello and welcome to this second Spanish class, ASMR. So today I'm going to make a different dynamic for this video. If you maybe don't look the previous class, you don't have to worry because this is different, and even if you lost that first class, eventually you are going to learn from this ASMR Spanish class. But even if you want to watch that class, you can search it on my channel. Just click in the cards in the top of this video and eventually you are going to see that first class. In that first class, basically we talk about different objects and using in different occasions. For example, for a knife in dangerous situations in Latin America and maybe in Spain, and using different accents from Spain, from Latin America. But Latin America used to have different accents, but even with that I try to teach you with different objects, different situations. And this specific class I'm going to teach you different sentences in Spanish. The idea in the future is you make this with a blackboard. That will be pretty easy. So in that future videos, when I have the perfect setup for this ASMR Spanish class, I'm going to use two cameras and a blackboard to write the sentences and make the different Spanish and English. But the reality about learning Spanish, and not only Spanish, learning English, French, German, whatever the language that you are trying to learning, it is that basically there are different methods, different ways, and I'm going to try to teach you the best methods to learn the English. And obviously, if you really like the ASMR videos, and with this kind of videos, also you can learn a new skill, Spanish, because I know, for example, for UK students, learning Spanish is one of the greatest things. But that could change, depends of the country and many other factors. But the thing is that this is the two benefits of this kind of videos, learning and the benefits of the ASMR. So even with that, I try to remind myself that using a soft spoken voice and try to make the best of this ASMR to basically tingles and the benefits of soft-spoken, of whispering. I know that maybe that voice could be really good for that. Not for all people, but I know that a lot of people really like my voice in Spanish. I don't know English. You can let me know in the comments below. But well, let's go straight to the point, that is learning Spanish. So today I just try to teach you the pronunciation, and in the future videos how you can write that sentence basically in Spanish. So this is only about listening and speaking these videos. In the future it is going to be listening, speaking, and write the sentences, basically translate to Spanish and understand. And basically, do you know how to write those sentences in English, and to try to understand how you write those sentences in English? I try to make the best way to learn these videos, and also the best way to learn English, because before to start I'm going to give you this parenthesis about this kind of things. For example, to learning English, in my case, I never went to any institute. I used a traditional ways to learn English. Basically, when you are in your childhood, doesn't matter the language, at the beginning your parents give you and show you different objects. This is blue, this is green, this is yellow, this is a knife, this is a mouse, elephant, different objects. And while they teach you that those kind of things, you are listening. You practice listening, you practice talking, because eventually you have to interact with your parents and with someone else. And at the same time, you start to learning vocabulary from different words to understand what is an elephant, a blue object, person, situation, and eventually you are going to understand. You don't know what is the past, the future, the present, continuous, and all those kind of stuff. That was the way that I learned Spanish. And when I start to learning English, I do the same thing. I just listen in and try to understand different kind of things, and that works pretty well for me because I've been working with United States companies and communicated. Obviously, at the beginning was a little bit difficult due my pronunciation, and sometimes you not only understand totally, basically you are not in the same page with the person that is talking to you, but with practice and different ways of learning, eventually is going to make that you understand those things. One of the best way, that could be stressful, depends on the person, but even with that is the best way, is to dive and go 100% to that. For example, if you are in United States or UK, Australia, one of the best way to start learning Spanish is going to Spain or some country from Latin America, Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, Chile, Spain, whatever the country that people speak Spanish. At the beginning, it'd be overwhelming and sometimes stressful because you are not going to understand anything, but that forces you and put you in a situation that you have to learn that language. The pronunciation doesn't be the best and many other, but you are going to start to understand everything, and that is one of the best ways. And eventually you can go from listening and speaking or talking to write and read. Different levels, because basically when you're at your childhood, you start talking, listening, and eventually when you go to the school, you start to write and read. That is the same things that I do to myself. I start with listening and talking and different interactive things using Duolingo and other apps, and then I start to reading different kind of articles or things, and eventually try to write. That's the most difficult to me, write. But I keep practicing, and I know that eventually I'm going to increase my level while I keep doing this. That's why one of the reasons that I decided to create this channel, because that helped to myself, and it is not my best situation, but with that I have to learn about new things. And this is a huge opportunity for you too, because you can learn Spanish if you want it, obviously, and double benefit. But well, that wasn't a really long parenthesis for this video, so let's get started with this video. And I'm going to say the sentence in English, and then I'm going to say the same sentence with accent in Spain, Spanish from Spain, and Spanish from Latin America. Obviously, you have to keep in mind that in Latin America, there are a lot of different accents from Argentina, Uruguay, Colombia, Venezuela, Mexico. So this is some kind of neutral, because the reality is that that doesn't exist. But if most of the people understand something that neutral hasn't, that could be from capital from Colombia and some parts from Mexico. But as you know, that is not something like that, like neutral accent. But well, even with that, let's get started. The first sentence is, for example, when you go to a country and you say, "Hello, my name is David." That is too formal, because you know that here in Latin America we used to learn English too formal, but when we travel to English country like United States or whatever, I understand that was too formal to learn, so you have to learn some informal. But well, the first sentence is, "Hi, nice to meet you, my name is David." Let's go with this sentence. Hi, nice to meet you, my name is David. So hi is hola. Hi, hola. Hi, hola. Nice to meet you. Un gusto en conocerte. I know that could be a little bit challenging. So, hello, hola, nice to meet you. Un gusto conocerte. My name, mi nombre, es David. David. So, the whole sentence is, hello, nice to meet you. My name is David. In Spanish is, hola, un gusto conocerte. Mi nombre es David. You translate even the name, because David. I don't know, maybe you know a soccer player from Real Madrid that is from Colombia. The name is James Rodriguez. Well, in Spanish is James Rodriguez. In English could be James Rodriguez, something like that. That's why I translate even my name in Spanish and English. Some names doesn't have a translation. For example, Joaquin, only the pronunciation in Spanish is Joaquin, and English is Joaquin. For example, Joaquin Phoenix, something like that. But well, let's go again back to the sentence. It is, hello, hola, hola, hello, hola. Maybe you already know that, so let's go to the next one. Nice to meet you. Un gusto conocerte. Un gusto conocerte. Nice to meet you. My name is, mi nombre es, David. In Spanish, it's going to be pretty similar. So I don't know. Well, from Latin America, neutral lesson is, hola, un gusto conocerte. Mi nombre es David. In Spanish from Spain, well, I don't remember pretty well the accent, but that could be, hola, mi nombre es, hola, un gusto conocerte. Mi nombre es David. Well, that is no Spain accent. It's from another related location, but that is the idea. And while you keep listening that, eventually you are going to understand what it's saying. At the beginning, maybe you translate to your language that phrase. He say, hola, un gusto conocerte, mi nombre es David. Oh, hi, nice to meet you, my name is David. You translate, but eventually, even when you practice even more and more, you don't have to translate because you are going to understand in the same language. I know that could be difficult at the beginning, but I guarantee that eventually you are going to do that. Well, we are 40 minutes of the video and I just teach you one sentence. So let's go to the next one. Another sentence could be, I am from United States. I am from United States. In Spanish that is, yo soy de Estados Unidos. Let's go and make with, I don't know, Latin American country, Mexico. I am from Mexico. Yo soy de México. Yo soy de México. That could be a little bit Argentine accent. Yo soy from Mexico. You have to keep in mind that some different accents could be different and a little bit difficult to understand. For example, in Latin America, accent from Chile is difficult to understand even from people from Latin America. If you live in Colombia, Ecuador, even Mexico, when you listen people from Chile, the people make different jokes that even if you talk in Spanish, people say, what did he say? Basically, it's like if Chile was a different language due to this pronunciation and the accent. So if you maybe or eventually go to Latin America, you have to understand that if you go to, for example, Bogota in Colombia, or Mexico City in Mexico, or the most neutral locations in Latin America, you are going to easily understand. For example, I am from Mexico. Yo soy de México. Yo soy de Colombia. Yo soy de Ecuador. But when you go for Chile and other locations, could be a little bit different. Even in Colombia, for example, there are some places, some cities, they have a really difficult accent. In the Pacific coast, there are different cities, Cartagena, Barranquilla, Santa Marta, and they used to have a really particular accent that is pretty similar to Venezuela people, and that is a little bit struggle when you try to understand. When you say, I am from Mexico, in Chile it could be, well, yo soy from Mexico, yo soy from Chile, well, yo soy from Chile. Something like that is difficult. And from people from Pacific coast could be, well, I don't remember pretty well the accent. And it is, for example, from speaking Spanish speakers, we understand that some accents could be a little difficult in United States from some particular people, because I passed through that in the past. But eventually, when you keep trying and talk more with those specific regions of the United States and other parts, eventually you are going to understand. So you start with the most easy accent, and maybe if you went to Chile with someone that is not from that country, that person maybe say, what did you say? Because it's really difficult to understand some people, and also from some parts of Colombia and many other countries, but the most common is to understand easily. In this case, I am from Mexico. Yo soy de México. Yo soy de México. Yo soy de México. Yo soy de México. That is another sentence. For example, if you are in the street and maybe you are searching for help because you are searching for a specific address or something like that, maybe you can go and, excuse me, can you help me with this? Excuse me, can you help me with this? In Colombia, it could be something like, perdón. It is no the right translate, because excuse me in Spanish for more natural it could be excúseme. Excuse me, excúseme. Could you help me with this address? ¿Puedes ayudarme con esta dirección? Excúseme. ¿Podría ayudarme con esta dirección? But if you are in Colombia, for example, you are going to say perdón. Perdón in English is sorry, because we are here so formal. If you know someone that maybe went to Colombia, you realize that we are too formal for everything, and we used to say I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm so sorry. We are too formal. That's why the people from other countries love when went to this country, because usually we are really nice people, like other countries. Obviously it is not the only one, but going back to that, if you are in Colombia, for example, when you say excuse me, can you help me with it? Can you help me with this address? Or may you help me with it? That is a little bit not so hard, not so that way. Excuse me. May you help me with this address? Or could you help me with this address? In Spanish, it is something like, perdón, ¿podría ayudarme con esta dirección? Excúseme, ¿podría ayudarme con esta dirección? Or, un momento, por favor, ¿podría ayudarme con esta dirección? Or simple like, hey, hola, ¿podría ayudarme con esta dirección? hello, you can help me with this address? Something like that. It is for most common situations. For example, if you are looking for a mall or supermarket, you can go in English and say, hey, do you know what is the nearest mall? What is the nearest supermarket? In Spanish it's something, excuse me, sorry, perdón o excúseme. ¿Podría decirme dónde está el supermercado o el centro comercial más cerca? Excuse me. Could you help me what is the nearest mall or supermarket? Excúseme. ¿Podría decirme dónde está el centro comercial o el supermercado más cerca? But you have to keep in mind that obviously supermarket and mall are huge different. But even with that, if you are asking for a mall, we understand that is a mall and that is a supermarket is different. Because in a mall you are going to find everything, but in supermarket it is, in this case in Colombia, is most for food and groceries, something like that. But in a mall you are going to find, like in your States, technology and many other different kind of things. So you have to keep that difference. And also you have to keep in mind that there are some kind of words that you don't translate. For example, in Colombia there is a typical food that the name is changua. Changua. That doesn't, you don't translate that word. And that specific and particular food is basically in a bowl. You put 1 or 2 eggs with milk and something pretty similar to bread. I know that could be sound pretty weird, and it is a little bit salt. When you listening that and you look, you say, that is awful. But I really love changua. The other thing that we can do for future class is that you can let me know in the comment below what specific things do you really like to learn about Spanish, and it will be my pleasure to teach all of those situations, because the most common when you decide to come to Latin America or going to Spain, it is a hello, my name is David, hola, mi nombre es David, or can you help me please? ¿Puedes ayudarme, por favor? Can you help me, please? ¿Puedes ayudarme, por favor? Can you? ¿Puedes? Can you? ¿Puedes? Help me? Ayudarme? Help me? Ayudarme? Please? Por favor? If you decide to, with zero Spanish, go to a Spanish country like Spain or Latin America, that is the most useful situation. The other thing that is going to be pretty useful is Google Translate, or some kind of app that helps you to translate the things that you are saying in English, and the translate is going to help you to say that in English, in Spanish. That is something useful, but you have to be aware about that, because if you make that specific thing in dangerous zones or neighborhoods in Latin America, that will be very dangerous, because that person that maybe you are asking for help is going to steal your things, not only your cell phone, your money, and most of the stuff that you have, that you are carrying on. So that is something that could be useful, but be aware in which specific situation you are asking for help. It is a dangerous zone, don't do that, please. My advice: if you are going to a dangerous zone, try to go with someone that is native from that specific country, that teach you what are the good and the bad zones. Keep that in mind, is something pretty useful if you decide to go from Latin America country, cities, and that. So, well, going back to that, can you help me with this please? Or something like, excuse me, I'm searching for this address. Perdóname. O excúseme. Estoy buscando esta dirección. Probably you say, perdóneme. Estoy buscando esta dirección. Even if you have accent, don't worry. We are going to understand you. And most of the people are able to help you. You can use the Google Translate and many other things. Other common situation is introduce yourself, like I already did. The most common is, hi, my name is David, nice to meet you. Hola, mi nombre es David, un gusto en conocerte. For example, if you are going to a specific situation, maybe talking to someone that is from that country, and maybe you asking for help, that is the most common situation, searching for supermarket and something like that, the address. And the other thing that we are able and open to do to help you, if we have the time, is try to teach you and translate some words to make your effort a little bit easy if you are looking for something specific. For example, most of the people came to Latin America and rent a car. So maybe you are asking, I'm sorry, do you know where I can rent a car? That is not something pretty common here in Latin America, but there are many places that you can rent a car. So you can Google, and if maybe you're asking for that, for example, rent a car or rent a vehicle, in this specific, it will be rent a car. Rentar, rentar, a vehicle or car, un vehículo o un carro, carro, it is pretty simple, carro, vehicle, vehículo, rent, rentar, rent a vehicle, rentar un vehículo. I'm looking for cinema. Estoy buscando un cine. I'm looking for cinema. Estoy buscando un cine. You can let me know in the comments below what are the more common questions that maybe you asking for someone in Latin America, and I'm going to translate those specific questions, because in this video we almost 3 minutes, and with that I only teach you 3 specific sentences, but the other information related to that is going to help you when you're asking for help, because most of the people here are really nice, but you have to keep in mind that even with that, it is not 100% people. So you have to keep in mind that if you are going to use technology like your cell phone to help you to translate English to Spanish, be aware about in which specific sounds you can do that. And the best advice that I can give you, I don't know, maybe you can find someone related to friend or something like that that will help you with someone here that eventually is going to help you keep a tour from cities and many different places. And that is a really good thing, because if you're going to the most usual companies that make a tour or something like that, that is the most common, and most of the times it's boring. So the best way that you can do, I know that maybe you hear a lot of advices that you don't have to come here, this is a dangerous place, and many other things, but believe me that it is not 100% sure. Obviously there are some places that are pretty dangerous, but you have to keep in mind that the best practice that I can give you if you decide to come to Latin America, even in Spain, is that maybe you go from someone to that specific part. Maybe some friend of you or someone in your family maybe is related, or maybe know someone from here in a specific country that maybe can, we are really good people, so we can receive you and give you a tour, show you the most common places, and believe me, that is going to be even 100% better. And you can come in a group and something like that, and it's going to be eventually pretty huge more experience than the most common tour, because those companies usually make tours in the most common cities. But one of the best things of Latin American countries is that the best things, it is not in the most common countries, in the most common cities. For example, Bogota, Cartagena, Medellin, Ciudad de Mexico, Buenos Aires, and many other cities is the most common, that you have to try for different places. And that is my advice. So basically, what is the best advice that I can give you about to learn Spanish? And you can also or only use only those 3 sentences that we learn in this class. Introduce yourself. Hello, my name is David, nice to meet you. Oh, hello, nice to meet you, my name is David. It is, hola, mi nombre es David, un gusto conocerte. O hola, un gusto conocerte, mi nombre es David. Excuse me, can you help me with this? Perdóname. O excúsame, ¿puede ayudarme con esto? Sorry, what is the nearest supermarket? Excúsame, ¿dónde está el supermercado más cercano? Pharmacy. Pharmacy. Droguería. O farmacia. Depends of the country. For example, if you are asking for a pharmacy, in Colombia, it's going to be droguería. But even if you say pharmacy, we understand that you are not from here, but eventually we can help you. Pharmacy, farmacia, pharmacy, farmacia, and Colombia, droguería. Other word that could change depends of the country. For example, here in Colombia or Latin America, for example, talking about specific Colombia, jacket. Jacket in Spanish is chaqueta. Jacket, chaqueta. But if you decide go to Mexico, you probably are not going to say chaqueta, because that word in that common country, the meaning of chaqueta, it is out of satisfaction. You understand what I'm talking about? So in that case, you don't say chaqueta, you say chamarra. So you have to understand that jacket in Colombia, Brazil, Colombia, Argentina, Venezuela, Spain, it is going to be chaqueta. But if you go to Mexico, it's going to be chamarra. Jacket, chamarra, chaqueta. Okay. Maybe you can say chamarra. A lot of people in other countries are not going to understand you, but we can help you with that, because every country could have different things in different kind of words and translate different words. And in Latin America, we don't used to translate everything, but in Spain, they used to translate most of the words. So you have to keep in mind that when you make that specific translation. I'm talking about the previous class about pen. When you're asking for a pen in a specific city of Latin America, it's going to be esfero. And other locations doesn't understand what is esfero, only in that specific city. But pen is bolígrafo. So you can use the most common pay, pagar, bank, banco. There are a lot of words that it is pretty easy to translate. Banco, bank, money, dinero. Money could be bills or monies, but money in general is going to be dinero. Efectivo, cash, efectivo. I know that in United States and other, specifically in China, they used to use a lot no cash, credit card, or even your cell phone to pay different kind of things. But in Latin America, we use a lot the cash. Obviously, with the time, that is going to change. Just right now, there are a lot of different kind of apps that allow you to pay it without cash. But maybe if you need cash, there are a lot of different banks and cash holder that eventually going to help you with that. So, because you are the student, I'm going to try to create different kind of classes. Today I try to teach you different sentences, but after almost 40 minutes I realized that I have to try to do this in a different way. But if maybe you like this way, that is pretty good. I know that the best way to teach you is use a blackboard and something like that. But well, even with that, I hope that you listen in and try to understand that. For example, I'm going to talk in Spanish for the following minute. Hola, mi nombre es David. Yo vivo en un país de Latinoamérica que es muy conocido por el café. Juan Valdez, coffee, Juan Valdez. Juan Valdez, it is something like Mario in Japan for video games. It is that the same. Así que en Colombia se conoce mucho por el café. Nice people y por gente muy amable. Pero también hay otros países como México. People are really nice there. La gente es muy amable en México. And that could be the same in Ecuador. Y eso puede ser lo mismo en Ecuador, Bolivia, Argentina, Chile. Eventually you have to deal with different accents. Eventualmente vas a tener que lidiar con muchos acentos. Eventually you have to deal with different accents. Eventualmente vas a tener que lidiar con diferentes acentos. But at the end, pero al final, if we understand with not the best pronunciation accent, pero al final si entendemos, aunque no tengas la mejor pronunciación o el acento, believe me when I tell you that we are going to help you. Créeme cuando te digo que vamos a ayudarte. So, my invitation, así que mi invitación, is that you try to start doing things that maybe you are scared about it, fear about it. Así que mi aviso es que empieces a hacer cosas con las que no te sientas como que te den miedo. Talking about Spanish, not only Spanish, other languages. Hablando de español, y no solo de español, otros idiomas también. And believe me, eventually you are going to figure out how to speak and listen in many other things. Y créeme, eventualmente tú vas a aprender cómo se escucha, cómo se dice, y vas a aprender todo eso. So, I want to make and improve these classes to make that double benefit. Así que, bueno, quiero entregar ese doble beneficio en esta clase de videos y quiero mejorar. And I want to improve. Eventually I'm going to do with Blackboard many other things. Eventualmente lo voy a hacer con pizarras y esa clase de cosas. But this channel is yours. pero este canal es tuyo. Así que, let me know what do you want. Hazme saber qué quieres. And I'm going to do it. Y yo voy a hacerlo. I hope that compensates all the things that I didn't say in Spanish. Try to understand the two languages and that specific pronunciation for those things that I already said. So well, thank you so much if you watched until this moment. Let me know in the comments below what do you want of the next class of Spanish. And eventually I'm going to figure out how to do it. And just to finish this last part of the video, I'm going to say it 100% in Spanish. Even if you don't understand, you are training your listening. That is one of the important things in Spanish and other languages. Okay? This is the last part. But put attention, I'm going to make fast and slowly. Try to understand. Si llegaste hasta esta parte del video, muchísimas gracias. Muchas gracias. Y pues espero que sea muy útil. Hazme saber en los comentarios qué quieres a futuro y voy a tratar de hacerlo. Te deseo una buena semana, un excelente día y una increíble vida. Así que nos vemos en el próximo video. Bye bye. Si llegaste hasta este momento del video, muchas gracias. De verdad. Hazme saber en los comentarios qué quieres y buscaré la forma de hacerlo. Solo me queda decirte que tengas una buena semana, un excelente día y una maravillosa vida. We will see in a new ASMR video. Nos veremos en un nuevo video ASMR. Bye. Chao. Sayonara.